Great to see everybody. So when I think about sustainability and I close my eyes, often I think about this picture. This is a scene from one of our parks. This is Furstenberg Nature Area along the river. And this is that integration of a native landscape with the built environment. It's really quite an amazing place, and it really sort of marries those concepts. So I work for Natural Area Preservation, and we sort of, as a department of the city government, we sort of straddle that line between services provided to people and sort of empowering or teaching others to do things in the park system and on their own lands. And so we have a mission, which is sometimes strange for an individual department of the city to have, but our mission is to protect and restore Ann Arbor's natural areas and foster an environmental ethic amongst its citizens. And this has been essentially the sort of the goal that we've been working towards in all of our work for about the last decade or so, since we sort of coined that and put that into existence. So, in terms of natural areas management and sustainability, a lot of it is about history and what occurred here prior to European settlement. So this is a quote from 1836, and these are land survey notes when people were from the East Coast coming through and essentially demarcating the land for survey and for division. And so, in case you can't read it, oaks of the circumference of 9 to 15 feet abound in the forests. White oak and bur oak at intervals of 30 to 40 feet with an undergrowth of 5 to 6 feet high, which has an appearance of being annually burnt down, as I am informed that it is. And so history is really important when thinking about how you move into the future. And I apologize, this doesn't look as great as it did on my computer. And Matt's way too kind when he says that I have any propensity for doing things well in GIS. But so this is a map. You can see the outline, the city boundary. This pointer is not working so well. And these are the historic vegetative communities that occurred in the Ann Arbor area prior to settlement. And so you can see right in the downtown area is primarily a mixed oak forest. All along the tributaries, the creeks were sedge meadows, emergent marshes and wetlands, some beech maple forests, and some, well, that's kind of further to the, I'm thinking further south. But what's interesting is that you had this really sort of interesting matrix of natural community sort of ebbing and flowing and moving. It wasn't a sort of monoculture of one thing, but it was this mixed environment, and it has to do with soils, and it has to do with topography, and it has to do with hydrology, and it also has to do with how people who lived there prior to settlement used the land and what they used it for. And so that is something that we need to consider when what we're restoring to in the future, what we're trying to do in natural areas management is not just about us dictating and trying to change things now, but sort of moving forward in the future with that trend that occurred historically. So what does NAP do? So we facilitate restoration in all of the city parks and city-owned natural areas. And what does that mean to facilitate restoration? It means things like we do detailed botanical and inventories of all the plants that occur in city-owned natural areas. We also do detailed inventories of the other critters that live out there. And so we have an idea of what's occurring in the landscape and what's using the landscape, and that's important for sort of thinking about ecosystem services. It's important also for thinking about yeah, that's fine. I see I have 1 minute left. And so a part of also what we do is we do invasive species control. And so when you see someone walking down the street with a big orange bag on their back full of garlic mustard, it's because they are putting an effort into restoring or helping the land in a way that doesn't further diminish the biodiversity of that landscape that they live in, the context they live in, and also helps sort of bolster or create resilient ecosystems that are all around us. So this is another map of the city, and in the green and in the orange and in the sort of gray, those are public spaces that have some remnant natural community, or the city or other entities within the city are actively restoring or doing work to sort of create viable ecosystems. And you can see it's highly fragmented, and you can see that, that it's not a large percentage of the area, but it is significant. And, yes. And the other part that's important not to forget about is that to be able to create viable ecosystems, to be able to sort of restore these environments, that it's not just something that's sort of being done outside the context of us, but we're active participants in doing that. And so through volunteer stewardship work days and through other things that we bring the public in to do with us, we're working towards some of those environmental goals that the city has.